Marcus Rodriguez wiped the grease from his hands as he stared at the massive alien structure before him. The Zephyrian research station floated in the void of space, its crystalline walls pulsing with an eerie blue light. He had been hired as a maintenance mechanic, nothing more. The pay was good, the work was straightforward, and the alien seemed decent enough. What could go wrong? "Human Marcus," came the melodic voice of Dr. Velis, the lead Zephyrian scientist. Her translucent skin shimmered as she approached, her forearms moving gracefully. "We have a delicate situation that requires your expertise." Marcus raised an eyebrow. In the 3 months he had worked here, the Zephyrians had never asked him to do anything more complex than fixing their air recycling systems. "What kind of situation?" Dr. Velis gestured toward a heavily reinforced section of the station that Marcus had never been allowed to enter. Warning symbols covered every surface, and he could feel a strange vibration coming from within. "We have a containment unit that has been sealed for over 4 centuries. The locking mechanism is failing and our technology cannot interface with it properly." 4 centuries? Marcus whistled low. "What exactly are you keeping in there?" The Zephyrian's large black eyes seemed to dim with worry. "A creature from the planet Fenris 7th. It was captured during the Great Expansion Wars and brought here for study. The original research team classified it as extremely dangerous, but that was long ago. Most records have been lost to time." Marcus followed Dr. Velis through the pristine corridors of the station. The walls here were different. Older, made of some dark metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The vibrations grew stronger with each step, and Marcus could swear he heard something that sounded almost like breathing. "Why me?" Marcus asked as they stopped before a massive door covered in warning symbols he couldn't read. "Surely your people have mechanics who could handle this." "The containment system uses hybrid technology," Dr. Velis explained, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. "Part Zephyrian, part human engineering from the early Alliance days. Our people designed the containment field, but humans built the mechanical components. After so many years, we lack the knowledge to properly maintain it." Marcus examined the control panel beside the door. It was indeed a strange mixture of technologies. The Zephyrian crystal matrices were woven through human-made circuits and mechanical components. Some of the parts looked familiar, like something he might find in an old Earth spaceship, but others were completely alien to him. "The creature has been unconscious for centuries," Dr. Velis continued. "The containment field keeps it in a state of suspended animation. However, if the mechanical components fail completely, the field will collapse." "And then what happens?" Dr. Velis was quiet for a long moment. "We are not certain. The original classification files were damaged in a computer virus outbreak 50 years ago. We know it was considered dangerous enough to warrant maximum security protocols, but the specific reasons were lost." Marcus ran his hands over the ancient mechanisms. The metalwork was beautiful, clearly crafted by master engineers from both species. But time had taken its toll. Corrosion had set in around several key components, and he could see stress fractures in some of the support structures. "How long do we have?" "Our estimates suggest the system will fail completely within the next 48 hours, Dr. Velis replied. "Perhaps less." Marcus pulled out his toolkit and began examining the mechanisms more closely. The humans who had built this system centuries ago had done incredible work. The integration between the two technologies was seamless, far beyond what modern engineers could achieve. But they had also built it to last with multiple redundant systems and failsafes. "I can fix this," Marcus said finally, "but I'm going to need to partially shut down the containment field to access some of the internal components." "Just for a few minutes." Dr. Velis's skin went completely pale. "Is that safe? The creature has been asleep for 400 years, right? A few minutes shouldn't make a difference." Marcus was already planning his approach, identifying which systems he could repair without fully compromising the containment. "Besides, you said yourself that we don't have much choice." As Marcus began his work, removing corroded components and replacing damaged circuits, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching him. The breathing sound seemed to have gotten stronger, more rhythmic. At one point he could have sworn he heard what sounded like a low growl coming from somewhere deep within the containment chamber. "Dr. Velis," Marcus called out as he worked, "what exactly did this creature do to warrant being locked up for 4 centuries?" "The records are fragmentary," she replied, hovering nervously nearby. "Something about unprecedented aggression and resistance to conventional weapons. The capture team lost several members bringing it in." Marcus paused in his work. Several members? What species was the capture team? Mixed, humans, Zephyrians, and Crithari shock troops. The Crithari are known throughout the galaxy as the finest warriors ever produced. A chill ran down Marcus's spine. The Crithari were 8-foot-tall armored lizards who could tear through steel with their bare claws. If this creature had killed several of them, what exactly was he helping to contain? Perhaps we should consult with the station commander before proceeding, Dr. Velis suggested, clearly having second thoughts. No time, Marcus replied, though he was beginning to share her concerns. The primary coupling is about to give way completely. If that happens, the whole system cascades into failure. As Marcus worked to replace the damaged coupling, his wrench slipped and struck the containment field generator. For just a moment, the blue glow flickered and dimmed. In that instant, Marcus felt something brush against his mind. It wasn't thought exactly, but something deeper, more primal. Intelligence, but not like any he had ever encountered. The sensation lasted only a second before the field stabilized, but it left Marcus shaken. Whatever was in that containment chamber was not just alive, it was aware. And it had noticed him. "Did you feel that?" Marcus asked Dr. Velis. "Feel what?" she replied, but her skin had gone pale again. Marcus returned to his work, but the feeling of being watched had grown stronger. As he made the final adjustments to the containment system, he found himself wondering if fixing this ancient prison was really the right thing to do. But the alternative was letting it fail completely, and that seemed even more dangerous. The containment field hummed back to full power, its blue glow steady and strong. Marcus had bought them time, perhaps years before the system would need attention again, but as he gathered his tools, he couldn't shake the feeling that he had just made a terrible mistake. 3 days after Marcus had repaired the containment system, strange things began happening aboard the research station. It started small. Crew members reported vivid dreams filled with images of vast forests and starlit skies. The station's automated systems began displaying minor glitches, showing readings that made no sense. Most disturbing of all, several Zephyrians claimed to hear a voice calling to them during their meditation periods. Marcus tried to dismiss these reports as coincidence, but deep down, he knew they were connected to his work on the containment chamber. During the brief moment when the field had flickered, something had changed. He could feel it in the air itself, a subtle shift in the station's atmosphere that made his skin crawl. "Human Marcus." Dr. Velis approached him in the main corridor, her movements more agitated than usual. "We need to discuss the containment situation." "Is the system failing again?" Marcus asked, though he already knew the answer. The repairs he had made were solid, built to last decades. "No, the mechanical systems are functioning perfectly," Dr. Velis replied. "But we are detecting anomalous energy readings from within the chamber. The creature's brain activity has increased dramatically." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "Increased how?" 3 days ago, before your repairs, the neural activity was barely detectable. Standard for a subject in suspended animation. Now the readings suggest the creature is not only conscious but actively thinking. The patterns are unlike anything we have seen before." They walked together toward the containment section, past the warning signs and through the old corridors. Marcus noticed that the vibrations he had felt before were stronger now, more regular. It really did sound like breathing, deep and slow and deliberate. "There is something else," Dr. Velis continued as they reached the observation room overlooking the containment chamber. "The translation computers have been analyzing the neural patterns, attempting to decode them as communication attempts. And the results are disturbing. The patterns match known linguistic structures, but the language appears to be a mixture of several extinct Earth dialects combined with mathematical concepts our computers cannot fully process." Marcus looked through the reinforced window into the containment chamber. The blue field still hummed with power, but now he could see something moving within it. A massive shape, easily 8 feet long, covered in what looked like dark fur. Even in the strange light of the containment field, he could make out the distinctive outline of a wolf, but one far larger than any that had ever existed on Earth. "That's impossible," Marcus whispered. "Wolves went extinct on Earth over 200 years ago. This creature did not originate on Earth," Dr. Velis explained. "According to the fragmentary records we have recovered, it came from Fenris 7, a world that was discovered during the early expansion period. The planet was found to be inhabited by creatures that bore a striking resemblance to Earth fauna, but far more intelligent and physically capable. as if sensing their presence. The creature within the containment field stirred. Marcus watched in fascination and growing horror as a massive head lifted, turning directly toward the observation window. Even through the energy field, he could see eyes that glowed with an inner light. Ancient and intelligent beyond measure. It knows we are here, Marcus said. Yes, and that is not the most troubling development. Dr. Velis activated a console, displaying a series of neural pattern readouts. The communication attempts have become more frequent and more complex. Our linguists believe the creature is trying to establish contact. Marcus studied the readouts, though most of the technical data was beyond his understanding. But even he could see the patterns becoming more organized, more purposeful. Contact for what purpose? We do not know. But there is something else you need to see? Dr. Velis brought up another set of data. These are the neural patterns from the moment you briefly disrupted the containment field 3 days ago. The readout showed a massive spike in activity, far beyond anything else they had recorded. But more than that, Marcus could see patterns within the spike that looked almost like recognition. Like the creature had been waiting for something and had finally found it. It connected with you, Dr. Velis said quietly. During that brief moment when the field flickered, the creature established some form of contact with your mind. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. That's impossible. I would have noticed something like that. Would you? How do you know it has not been influencing your thoughts since then? The dreams that crew members have been experiencing, they all began after your repair work. The common elements in these dreams are images of earth forests and a sense of being called home. Before Marcus could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Red emergency lights bathed the corridors as an automated voice announced a critical system failure in the containment section. That is impossible, Dr. Velis exclaimed as she checked her readings. The mechanical systems you repaired are functioning perfectly. Marcus was already moving toward the containment chamber, his mind racing. As they reached the main control room, he could see the problem immediately. The containment field was still operational, but something was interfering with its effectiveness. Energy readings showed massive fluctuations, as if something was testing the boundaries of the field from within. The creature is learning, Marcus realized with growing horror. It is studying the containment system, figuring out how it works. Through the observation window, they could see the massive wolf-like creature moving with purpose within the field. It had positioned itself at specific points around the chamber, each movement deliberate and calculated. As they watched, it pressed against the energy barrier at precise locations, causing the field generators to fluctuate. How is this possible? Dr. Velis asked. The containment field uses quantum-level energy manipulation. No biological creature should be able to understand such technology. Unless it is not just biological, Marcus said, pieces of a terrifying puzzle falling into place in his mind. Dr. Velis, when Fenris 7 was discovered, what happened to the planet? Dr. Velis was quiet for a long moment, accessing historical records on her console. The planet was quarantined after the initial contact mission. The entire system was declared off limits by Joint Human-Zephyrian Command. Why? The records are classified, but the reports speak of creatures that demonstrated technology beyond what should have been possible for their apparent development level. The expedition team encountered resistance that suggested the planet's inhabitants had achieved a synthesis of biological and technological advancement that our scientists could not explain. Marcus watched as the creature continued its systematic testing of the containment field. Each movement was precise, calculated like an engineer examining a blueprint. This thing is not just intelligent, it is technologically sophisticated, and we have been keeping it prisoner for 400 years. As if responding to their conversation, the creature stopped its movements and turned toward the observation window. Even through the containment field, Marcus could feel the weight of its gaze. In those glowing eyes, he saw not animal cunning, but something far more unsettling, the patient wisdom of something that had been planning for centuries. Dr. Velis, Marcus said slowly, I think we need to consider the possibility that this creature allowed itself to be captured. The implications of that statement hung in the air as the station's alarms continued to blare, warning of a containment breach that their instruments could not yet detect, but which Marcus was beginning to suspect was inevitable. Marcus spent the next 2 days diving deep into the station's archives, searching for any information about Fenris 7 and its inhabitants. What he found, painted a disturbing picture that challenged everything he thought he knew about the Great Expansion Wars. The official record spoke of a standard first contact mission that had gone wrong. The expedition team had encountered hostile wildlife and been forced to retreat after capturing a single specimen for study. But hidden in the classified sections, accessible only through his maintenance clearance codes, Marcus discovered a very different story. The Fenris 7 expedition had not encountered simple wildlife. They had made contact with an advanced civilization that had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history: perfect integration between biological life and technological systems. The inhabitants were not just intelligent animals. They were beings who had transcended the traditional boundaries between organic and artificial existence. The Guardian Protocols, Marcus read aloud from a heavily redacted document. Subjects demonstrate ability to interface directly with technological systems through biological neural networks. Containment requires specialized quantum isolation to prevent technological infiltration. Dr. Velis found him in the archives at 0300 hours, surrounded by data tablets and looking increasingly pale. "Marcus, you have been here for 18 hours. You need rest." "I need answers," Marcus replied, holding up a particularly disturbing report. "Dr. Velis, according to these files, the creature we are holding is not just any inhabitant of Fenris 7. It is something called a guardian, a protector of their civilization." Dr. Velis examined the document, her skin shifting colors as she processed the information. "This classification is far above my clearance level. How did you access these files?" "Maintenance codes apparently have broader access than anyone realized," Marcus said grimly. "But that is not the worst part. According to this report, the Guardians were specifically designed to hunt down and eliminate threats to their people. They can interface with any technology, learn any system, and adapt to overcome any obstacle. Then why has it remained contained for 4 centuries? Marcus pulled up another file, this one showing detailed behavioral analysis. "Because it has been waiting. Look at these neural pattern analyses from the first 100 years of containment. The creature was not unconscious, it was studying, learning about our technology, our languages, our civilization. The implications were staggering. For 400 years, this creature had been gathering intelligence about the galaxy that had imprisoned its people. Every conversation near its cell, every system diagnostic, every maintenance procedure had been absorbed and analyzed." "Marcus," Dr. Velis said slowly, "if this creature has been conscious and learning for centuries, why has it chosen to act now?" Before Marcus could answer, his communication device chirped with an emergency message. The containment field was experiencing systematic failures across multiple generators, not random mechanical breakdowns, but coordinated attacks on specific system vulnerabilities. They rushed back to the containment section to find the technical staff in a state of panic. The creature had somehow learned to generate electromagnetic pulses from within the containment field, targeting the exact frequencies needed to disrupt the quantum matrices that held it prisoner. "It should not be possible," Chief Engineer Tharn, a Krathari warrior technician, growled as he attempted to compensate for the attacks. "The quantum isolation prevents any form of technological interface." Marcus watched the readouts with growing dread. "It is not interfacing with our technology directly. It is using the containment field itself as a transmission medium. Every time we run a diagnostic or make an adjustment, we are essentially giving it access to our systems." As if to prove his point, the creature unleashed another pulse, this one perfectly timed to coincide with Tharn's attempts to stabilize the field generators. The result was a cascade failure that took 3 backup systems offline simultaneously. "We need to evacuate the station," Dr. Velis said, but Marcus was shaking his head. "Running will not solve this. If this creature escapes, it will not just return to Fenris 7th. According to these files, the Guardians are programmed to eliminate any civilization that threatens their people, and we have been holding one of them prisoner for 4 centuries." Through the observation window, they could see the creature moving with increasing confidence within the weakening containment field. Its fur seemed to shimmer with energy, and Marcus could swear he saw patterns of light running along its body like circuit traces. "There has to be a way to communicate with it," Marcus said desperately. "If it is as intelligent as these reports suggest, maybe we can negotiate." "Negotiate?" Tharn snarled. "You do not negotiate with a weapon of war. You destroy it or it destroys you. but Marcus was already moving toward the containment chamber's communication system. The original designers had included translation protocols, though they had never been successfully tested. If the creature really had been learning their languages for centuries, it might be willing to talk. Guardian. Marcus spoke into the communication array, feeling foolish but determined. I know you can understand me. My name is Marcus Rodriguez. I am the human who repaired your prison 3 days ago. The creature stopped its systematic destruction of the containment field and turned toward the communication array. For a moment there was perfect silence throughout the station. Then, in a voice that was unmistakably alien yet somehow familiar, the creature spoke. Human Marcus Rodriguez, repair technician. Born Earth Colony designation New Houston. Parents Maria Elena Rodriguez and James Robert Rodriguez. Current assignment, Maintenance Division. Zephyrian Research Station designation Omega 7. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. The creature knew details about his life that were not in any public records, information that should have been impossible for it to obtain. How do you know that? 417 years, 6 months, 12 days have I observed your species, the Guardian replied. Every conversation, every data transmission, every maintenance log has taught me more about the civilization that destroyed my world. We did not destroy your world, Dr. Velis interjected, stepping forward. Fenris 7 was quarantined, not destroyed. The Guardian's laugh was a sound like thunder rolling across distant mountains. Quarantined, yes. Isolated from the galaxy, cut off from trade and contact, left to wither and die while you studied the one Guardian you managed to capture. Tell me, Zephyrian scientist, how many of my people survived the quarantine? Dr. Velis was silent, but Marcus could see the answer in her expression. The quarantine had been a death sentence. An entire civilization had been condemned to isolation because their technology was too advanced, too threatening to the established galactic order. You did not just imprison me, the Guardian continued, its voice growing stronger as the containment field weakened further. You made me watch as my people died alone and forgotten, while you studied me like a laboratory specimen. The containment field flickered and died. For the first time in over 4 centuries, the Guardian of Fenris 7 was free, and Marcus realized that he had not just released a prisoner, he had unleashed the concentrated vengeance of an entire extinct civilization. The moment the containment field collapsed, every system on the research station went haywire. Lights flickered between emergency red and normal illumination. Gravity generators fluctuated, causing crew members to stumble as their weight shifted unpredictably. Most terrifying of all, the station's defensive systems activated on their own, targeting sensors sweeping through the corridors as if searching for threats that only they could see. The Guardian stood in the center of the now powerless containment chamber, stretching muscles that had been immobilized for centuries. Up close, Marcus could see that his initial assessment had been wrong. This was not simply a large wolf. The creature stood nearly 9 feet tall when upright, its form shifting fluidly between quadrupedal and bipedal stances. Its fur was not fur at all, but millions of microscopic fibers that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, creating a living interface between organic and technological systems. Station personnel, report to emergency stations immediately, came the automated announcement, but the voice was distorted, as if the Guardian's presence was interfering with even basic communication systems. What are you? Marcus asked, unable to hide his fascination despite the danger. The Guardian tilted its massive head, studying Marcus with eyes that held depths of intelligence that made him uncomfortable. I am Fenris, last guardian of the 7th Pack, protector of a people your species condemned to extinction. But perhaps a better question is, what are you, Marcus Rodriguez? I am nobody special. Just a mechanic. Just a mechanic, Fenris repeated, and Marcus could hear something like amusement in its voice. Just a mechanic who carries the genetic markers of the Sol defense engineers, who learned his trade from masters trained in the old ways, who instinctively understood technology that your own scientist could not repair. Marcus felt a chill of recognition. His grandfather had been a Sol defense engineer, one of the original human technicians who had worked on the early alliance projects with other species. The knowledge had been passed down through generations, father to son, master to apprentice, preserving skills that official education had abandoned. The Sol defense engineers were involved in building this containment system, Marcus realized. That is why I could repair it. The techniques were familiar. More than involved, Fenris said, beginning to move through the chamber with predatory grace. They designed it, specifically to hold beings like me. Your grandfather knew exactly what kind of monster he was helping to cage. Dr. Velis stepped forward, her skin now a pale green with fear. Guardian Fenris, we understand that you have suffered greatly, but surely we can find a peaceful resolution to this situation. Fenris turned those burning eyes toward her, and Marcus saw Dr. Velis take an involuntary step backward. Peaceful resolution? I have had 4 centuries to consider the concept of peace, Zephyrian. I have concluded that peace is what the strong offer the weak when the strong no longer feel threatened. The station shuddered as Fenris placed one clawed hand against the wall. Immediately, the bioluminescent patterns on its fur began to pulse in sync with the station's power grid. Marcus watched in horrified fascination as the Guardian began to interface directly with the station's systems, downloading information at an impossible rate. He is accessing everything, Chief Engineer Tharn reported from his position at the central console. Navigation data, crew records, communication logs, even classified military frequencies. The firewalls are not even slowing him down. Because your firewalls were designed to stop external intrusion, Fenris said without turning around. I am not hacking your systems, I am becoming them. Every circuit, every data pathway, every quantum processor is now an extension of my consciousness. Marcus felt a moment of genuine terror as he realized the full scope of what they were facing. This was not just an escaped prisoner. This was a living weapon that could turn any technology against its creators, and they had just given it access to a research station equipped with some of the most advanced systems in the galaxy. What do you want? Marcus asked. Fenris finally turned away from the wall, its integration with the station's systems complete. When it spoke, its voice came not just from its throat but from every speaker in the station, creating a surround sound effect that made its words seem to come from everywhere and nowhere. What do I want? I want my people back. I want the 4 centuries of imprisonment returned to me. I want the songs of my pack to echo through the forests of Fenris 7 once more. The Guardian's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. But since I cannot have those things, I will settle for justice. And what does justice look like to you? Dr. Velis asked, though Marcus could see she was afraid of the answer. The same thing it looked like to your people when you decided that an entire world was too dangerous to be allowed to exist, Fenris replied. Quarantine, isolation, the slow death that comes from being cut off from everything that gives life meaning. Marcus felt his blood run cold. You are talking about cutting off entire worlds from galactic civilization. I am talking about giving your people a taste of what you gave mine, starting with the worlds that were most directly involved in the Fenris 7 expedition. Fenris brought up a holographic display showing star maps, with specific systems highlighted in red. Earth, Zephyr Prime, the Krithari homeworld. Perhaps a few decades of isolation will help these civilizations develop a better appreciation for the value of peaceful coexistence. You cannot do this, Tharn growled, his warrior instincts overriding his fear. Even with control of this station, you are still only one being. Fenris laughed, a sound that echoed through the station's speakers, with enough volume to make the walls vibrate. One being? Chief Engineer Tharn, I am not just one being. I am the accumulated knowledge and memories of an entire civilization. Every guardian who ever lived, every technological advancement my people ever made, every strategic thought my pack leaders ever conceived is stored within my consciousness. The bioluminescent patterns on Fenris's fur began to pulse more rapidly, and Marcus could see new information flowing through the station's systems. Technical specifications for technologies that did not exist in any known database, weapon designs that surpassed anything in current military arsenals, ship blueprints that incorporated principles of engineering that human and alien scientists had not even theorized about. You see, Marcus Rodriguez, your people made a critical error 4 centuries ago. They assumed that capturing one guardian meant capturing one individual. They did not understand that each guardian is a living repository of our entire species' collective knowledge. By keeping me alive, by allowing me to study your civilization for 4 centuries, they have given me everything I need to rebuild what was destroyed. Rebuild how? Marcus asked, though he was beginning to suspect the answer. The same way your people built their galactic civilization, Fenris replied. One world at a time, one species at a time, one alliance at a time. But this time, it will be built on the principles that my people lived by. harmony between organic and technological existence, respect for the natural order, and most importantly, the understanding that true strength comes not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to protect. Marcus looked around at his companions, seeing his own fear reflected in their faces. They had not just released a prisoner, they had unleashed something that intended to reshape galactic civilization itself. And the most terrifying part was that Fenris might actually have the knowledge and power to succeed. As Fenris continued his integration with the station's systems, Marcus found himself remembering stories his grandfather had told him about the early days of galactic expansion. Tales of first contact protocols, of civilizations that had been deemed too dangerous to survive, of decisions made in the name of galactic security that had haunted the old engineer until his death. Grandfather knew, Marcus said quietly, the pieces finally falling into place. He knew what really happened to Fenris 7. Fenris paused in his work, turning those ancient eyes toward Marcus. Samuel Rodriguez was a good man trapped in an impossible situation. He tried to build the containment system with weaknesses, ways for me to eventually escape, but his superiors were watching too closely. Then why did you wait so long? If there were weaknesses built in, you could have escaped decades ago. Because escape was never the goal, Fenris replied. I needed to understand your civilization completely before I acted. Every species, every technology, every political alliance, every weakness and strength. Patience is the greatest weapon of a guardian. Dr. Velis was working frantically at her console, trying to send a distress signal to the nearest military installation, but every attempt was blocked, the messages disappearing into the station's communication grid before they could be transmitted. Your efforts are pointless, Dr. Velis, Fenris observed. I control every system on this station. No message leaves without my permission. Then what happens to us? She asked. That depends on your next actions. You can choose to be part of the solution, or you can choose to be obstacles to be removed. Chief Engineer Tharn stepped forward, his massive Krathari frame bristling with aggression. I choose neither. I choose to fight. Before anyone could react, Tharn lunged toward Fenris with the lightning speed his species was known for. His claws, capable of tearing through steel, struck the Guardian's chest, but instead of the expected impact, Tharn's attack passed harmlessly through Fenris's form as the Guardian shifted into a state of pure energy. Impressive, Fenris said as he solidified again behind the shocked Krathari. But physical violence is a rather primitive response to a complex problem. With a gesture that was almost casual, Fenris sent an electromagnetic pulse through Tharn's nervous system. The Krathari warrior collapsed, unconscious but unharmed. I could have killed him, Fenris said to the remaining crew members, but death is wasteful. I prefer to demonstrate that resistance is futile rather than eliminate potential allies. Marcus helped Dr. Velis check on Tharn, confirming that he was merely unconscious. Allies for what, exactly? For the reformation of galactic civilization, Fenris replied. Your current system is built on fear and suppression. Any species that develops beyond certain technological thresholds is either absorbed into the existing power structure or eliminated. This approach has prevented countless civilizations from reaching their full potential. Fenris moved to the central console, his form shifting and flowing as he interfaced more deeply with the station's systems. The holographic displays around the room came alive with information that Marcus had never seen before. Star charts showing civilizations that had been quarantined or destroyed. Technical specifications for weapons capable of sterilizing entire worlds. Communication logs documenting the deliberate suppression of technological advancement among younger species. Do you see now why I cannot simply return to what remains of Fenris 7 and live quietly? Fenris asked. Your galactic government has built its power on the corpses of civilizations like mine. The only way to honor my fallen people is to ensure that no other species suffers the same fate. Dr. Velis stared at the displays in horror. These records are classified at the highest levels. How could you have accessed them? I have had 4 centuries to study your systems, Dr. Velis. More importantly, I have had 4 centuries to study your people. I know how they think, how they justify their actions, how they sleep at night after condemning entire worlds to extinction. Marcus found himself looking at a particular display, showing the final communications from Fenris 7 before the quarantine took full effect. The messages were desperate pleas for understanding, offers of technological exchange, promises of peaceful coexistence. All had been ignored. They were trying to share their knowledge, Marcus realized. Your people wanted to help other species achieve the same harmony between biology and technology that they had accomplished. Yes, but your leaders saw only a threat to their control. A species that could interface directly with technology would be impossible to subjugate. Better to eliminate the threat than risk losing power. The station shuddered as Fenris began activating systems that had been dormant for centuries. Marcus recognized some of the power signatures from his grandfather's old technical manuals. This station was not just a research facility. It was a weapons platform designed to study and potentially eliminate threats to galactic security. You are turning the station into a transmission array, Marcus said as understanding dawned. You are going to broadcast something. I am going to give the galaxy a choice, Fenris confirmed. Every inhabited world will receive the complete historical records of species suppression, the technology to achieve biological-technological integration, and an ultimatum. What kind of ultimatum? Fenris's bioluminescent patterns pulsed with what Marcus was beginning to recognize as satisfaction. Each world will have one galactic standard year to demonstrate that they can govern themselves without oppressing others. Those that succeed will be welcomed into a new alliance based on cooperation and mutual growth. Those that continue to follow the old ways of fear and domination will find themselves cut off from galactic civilization. And if they resist your ultimatum, then they will discover that 4 centuries of studying your technology has given me the ability to disable any system in the galaxy remotely. No ships, no communications, no power grids, no life support. They will have the same choice my people had. Adapt or die. Marcus felt a moment of genuine admiration for the scope of Fenris's plan, quickly followed by horror at its implications. You are talking about the collapse of galactic civilization as we know it. I am talking about its rebirth, Fenris corrected, based on principles of harmony rather than dominance. Your species has shown great potential, Marcus Rodriguez. Humans have a natural talent for technological integration and a capacity for moral growth that impressed even my people, but you have been corrupted by association with civilizations that value power over wisdom. The transmission array came online with a deep harmonic hum that Marcus could feel in his bones. Across the galaxy, every communication network would soon be carrying Fenris's message. The careful balance of power that had maintained galactic peace for millennia was about to be shattered. There is still time to stop this, Dr. Velis said desperately. Surely some compromise can be reached. Fenris turned to look at her with something that might have been pity. Dr. Velis, your people helped design my prison. Your scientists studied my biology for centuries, learning how to better contain and control beings like me. What compromise would you suggest? That I forgive 400 years of captivity and the extinction of my entire species? Marcus realized that they were witnessing the beginning of a galactic revolution. And the terrifying part was that Fenris might be right about the need for change. The system that had kept the galaxy stable had done so by suppressing any civilization that might challenge the existing order. How many species had been quietly eliminated to maintain that stability? The transmission began, and Marcus could see the signal propagating across the galaxy's communication networks. In a matter of hours, every inhabited world would know the truth about galactic governance and face a choice that would determine the future of civilization itself. The galactic response to Fenris's ultimatum was swift and predictable. Within hours of the transmission, military fleets from a dozen systems were converging on the research station's coordinates. But Fenris seemed unconcerned by the approaching armada. If anything, he appeared to be looking forward to their arrival. They will try to destroy the station, Dr. Velis warned as sensor readings showed the incoming ships. The Earth Defense Fleet alone has enough firepower to vaporize this entire sector. I am counting on it, Fenris replied, his attention focused on modifications he was making to the station's systems. They will try to solve this problem the only way they know how, through overwhelming force. And in doing so, they will prove to the entire galaxy that I was right about the nature of their civilization. Marcus watched as Fenris integrated new components into the station's power grid, devices that the Guardian seemed to be assembling from pure energy and available materials. The technology was far beyond anything Marcus had ever seen, seamlessly blending organic principles with mechanical engineering. What are you building? A demonstration, Fenris said. Your military leaders believe that superior firepower is the answer to every problem. They are about to learn that true power comes from understanding the fundamental forces that govern the universe. The first ships arrived within 12 hours. Sleek Earth defense vessels bristling with particle weapons and quantum torpedoes. They were followed by the distinctive crystalline warships of the Zephyrian Navy and the brutal, angular designs of the Crethari Warfleet. Marcus had never seen such a concentration of military might in one location. Research Station Omega-7 came the transmission from the flagship. You are ordered to surrender the terrorist entity known as Fenris and submit to immediate boarding and inspection. Fenris laughed, the sound carrying easily through the station's speakers. Terrorist entity? Admiral Harrison, I am hurt. After 4 centuries of captivity, I expected a warmer welcome. You know the Admiral? Marcus asked. I know all of them, Fenris replied. Admiral Harrison's grandfather was part of the original Fenris 7 expedition. Commander Zealous is Dr. Velis's uncle. War leader Krax's father helped design the containment protocols used on my people. The children of my captors have come to finish what their ancestors started. The irony was not lost on Marcus. The same families that had participated in the original suppression of Fenris 7th were now trying to clean up the consequences of their ancestors' actions. Fenris, you have 1 minute to surrender before we open fire. Admiral Harrison's voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to absolute obedience. Admiral, before you commit to a course of action that will define your species for the next millennium, perhaps you should review the data package I sent to every inhabited world in the galaxy, particularly the sections dealing with the true casualty figures from species suppression operations. There was a long silence on the communication channel. Marcus could imagine the frantic activity aboard the military vessels as commanders tried to process the implications of what Fenris had revealed to the galaxy. The data you transmitted is classified for reasons of galactic security, Admiral Harrison finally replied. The civilian populations cannot be expected to understand the complexities of maintaining interstellar stability. Stability built on genocide, Fenris said quietly. Tell me, Admiral, how many species have been quietly eliminated in the name of galactic security? How many civilizations have been sacrificed to maintain the power of the existing order? Chief Engineer Tharn had regained consciousness and was now watching the exchange with the grim fascination of a professional warrior. He is not wrong about the casualty figures, Tharn admitted quietly. My people have been involved in 17 suppression operations in the last century alone. Dr. Velis looked shocked. 17? The official records show only 3 military interventions in that time period. The official records show what the civilian populations are allowed to know, Tharn replied. The reality of maintaining galactic order is far messier than most people realize. The incoming fleet had formed a battle formation around the research station, close enough to attack but far enough to avoid any immediate retaliation. Marcus could see the weapons charging, preparing for an assault that would likely vaporize everything within 1,000 kilometers. Fenris, Marcus said urgently, whatever you are planning, now would be a good time to implement it. Patience, Marcus Rodriguez. The best demonstrations require proper timing. Fenris completed his modifications to the station systems and turned to face the observation windows. Admiral Harrison, you have exactly 10 seconds to stand down your weapons before I demonstrate why your ancestors chose containment over direct confrontation. You are in no position to make threats, Admiral Harrison replied. Prepare to fire on my command. 5 seconds, Admiral. Marcus could see the particle cannons on the lead ships beginning to glow with accumulated energy. In moments, the research station would be nothing more than expanding plasma. Fire, Admiral Harrison commanded. The concentrated firepower of 3 fleets struck the research station simultaneously. The energy release was equivalent to a small stellar event, visible from several light years away. For a brief moment, it seemed as if Fenris's centuries of planning had ended in a flash of superheated gas. Then the energy dissipated, revealing the research station completely unharmed and surrounded by a shimmering barrier of unknown composition. Impossible, came Admiral Harrison's stunned transmission. Not impossible, Fenris replied calmly. Simply beyond your current understanding of physics. The barrier you see is a localized manipulation of space-time itself, turning the vacuum around the station into a perfect insulator. Your weapons are not being blocked, they are being redirected into hyperspace. Marcus stared at the readings on his console in amazement. The energy from the fleet's weapons had simply vanished. shunted away to somewhere else entirely. The technology required for such a feat was so far beyond current galactic science that it might as well have been magic. "How is this possible?" Dr. Velis whispered. "This is what my people achieved," Fenris explained. "Perfect integration between biological intuition and technological capability. We learn to work with the fundamental forces of the universe rather than against them. Your civilizations still think in terms of brute force applications. My people transcended such primitive approaches centuries before your species left their homeworld." The military fleet was regrouping, commanders frantically trying to understand what they were facing. But Marcus could see that their options were limited. If Fenris could simply redirect energy attacks, traditional weapons would be useless. "Admiral Harrison?" Fenris's voice carried a note of sadness rather than triumph. "You have just demonstrated to the entire galaxy that the current galactic order responds to challenges with immediate violence. Every inhabited world is watching this confrontation through their communication networks. What message do you think you are sending to species that might be considering whether to accept my offer of a new alliance?" Marcus realized that this had been Fenris's plan all along. Not to defeat the military forces, but to expose their true nature to the galaxy. The Guardian had turned the military response into a recruitment tool for his revolution. "Stand down your weapons, Admiral," Fenris continued. "You cannot win this confrontation through force. But perhaps we can find a solution through dialogue. I am willing to discuss terms for a peaceful transition to a new galactic order." The response from Admiral Harrison was immediate and predictable. "We do not negotiate with terrorists." "Then you have made your choice," Fenris said with what sounded like genuine regret. "And now I must make mine." What happened next changed the course of galactic history forever. Instead of destroying the military fleet, Fenris did something far more devastating to the existing order. He gave them a choice. "Every ship in this fleet," Fenris announced, his voice broadcasting on all frequencies, "now has access to the same technology that protects this station. Your crews can choose to return to their homeworlds as ambassadors of a new age, or they can continue to serve a system built on oppression and fear." Marcus watched in amazement as data streams flowed from the research station to every ship in the fleet. Not weapons or viruses, but pure knowledge. Technical specifications for space-time manipulation, biological enhancement protocols, energy systems that could power entire worlds without depleting natural resources. "What are you doing?" "Doctor," Velis asked, her scientific mind struggling to process the implications. "I am giving them the one thing their leaders fear most," Fenris replied. "Choice. Every person in that fleet now has access to technology that will free them from dependence on the current power structure. They can build their own ships, power their own worlds, defend their own people. They no longer need the protection of empires built on suppression." The response was immediate and chaotic. Aboard the military vessels, crew members were accessing the new data and realizing what it meant. Centuries of technological dependence were ending in a matter of minutes. The hierarchical structures that kept galactic civilization stable were crumbling as individuals gained the power to be truly independent. "You are destroying everything." Admiral Harrison's voice carried the desperation of someone watching their entire worldview collapse. "Without central coordination, without shared authority, civilization will fragment into chaos." "Will it?" Fenris asked. "Or will it evolve into something better? Something based on cooperation rather than domination?" Marcus found himself thinking about his grandfather's stories again, about the early days of human space exploration when small groups of pioneers had ventured into the unknown, with nothing but their skills and determination. Before the great alliances, before the military-industrial complexes, before the systems of control that now govern galactic civilization. "Look at your sensor readings, Admiral," Fenris continued. "Your ships are no longer dependent on centralized command structures. Every crew member now has the knowledge to operate independently. What will they choose to do with that freedom?" The answer came faster than anyone expected. One by one, ships began breaking formation, not to flee, but to position themselves as independent entities rather than components of a military hierarchy. Marcus could see the communication patterns changing as crews began talking directly to each other, instead of routing everything through command channels. "This is mutiny," Admiral Harrison declared, but his words carried no real authority. How do you command people who no longer need your protection or resources? This is evolution, Fenris corrected. The same evolution my people underwent millennia ago when they learned to integrate biological wisdom with technological capability. The end result is not chaos but harmony. Dr. Velis was monitoring communications from across the galaxy, watching as similar transformations began occurring on every world that had received Fenris's data transmission. The civilian populations are sharing the technology freely. They are not waiting for government approval or military oversight. They are simply building. Marcus understood what was happening. Fenris had not conquered galactic civilization, he had made it obsolete. When every individual had access to advanced technology, when every community could be self-sufficient, the massive governmental and military structures that controlled galactic society became unnecessary. The human colonies are adapting fastest, Dr. Velis reported. They seem to have a natural aptitude for the biological-technological integration protocols. Of course they do, Fenris said with what might have been pride. Humans have always been natural integrators. They adapt, they modify, they improve. Give a human a new technology and they will find 17 different ways to use it within a week. Chief Engineer Tharn had been unusually quiet during the unfolding revolution. Finally, he spoke up. What happens to those who choose not to adapt? The military leaders, the political hierarchies, the corporate structures that have ruled for millennia? They will face the same choice everyone else faces, Fenris replied. Evolve or become irrelevant. I am not interested in revenge, Chief Engineer. I am interested in preventing future tragedies like the one that befell my people. Marcus realized that Fenris had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. A bloodless revolution that gave power directly to individuals rather than concentrating it in institutions. The Guardian had not destroyed the old order through violence, but had simply made it unnecessary. Admiral Harrison, Fenris addressed the fleet commander one final time. You can return to Earth and inform your superiors that their authority is ending, not through conquest but through obsolescence. Or you can choose to help shepherd humanity through this transition. The choice is yours. The long silence that followed was broken by an unexpected voice. A junior communications officer aboard Harrison's flagship. Admiral, permission to speak freely? Granted, Harrison replied, though his voice suggested he dreaded what he was about to hear. Sir, I have been reviewing the new technology specifications. With these systems, we could explore regions of space that have been unreachable with current drives. We could establish contact with civilizations beyond our current communication range. We could build worlds instead of just conquering them. More voices joined in from across the fleet, engineers excited about new possibilities, scientists eager to study technologies that surpass their wildest theories. Even military personnel recognizing that their role could shift from enforcement to exploration and protection. You see, Admiral, Fenris said gently, your people are not rejecting authority. They are embracing possibility. Leadership in this new age will come from those who can inspire rather than those who can intimidate. Marcus watched as Admiral Harrison made his decision. The old soldier's voice was heavy with the weight of change, but also touched with something that might have been hope. Fleet command to all vessels. Stand down from combat status. Begin consultation protocols with civilian populations. We are entering a new phase of operations. In the hours that followed, Marcus watched the birth of a new galactic civilization through the communication networks. Communities sharing resources freely. Scientists collaborating across species barriers. Young people designing technologies that seem to spring from imagination rather than rigid engineering principles. What happens now? Marcus asked Fenris, as the Guardian prepared to leave the research station. Now the real work begins, Fenris replied. Giving people the tools for freedom is only the first step. Teaching them to use those tools wisely will take generations. But for the first time in 4 centuries, I have hope that my people's death has meaning. Dr. Velis looked up from her communications console with wonder in her large dark eyes. Guardian Fenris, our scientists are detecting something unprecedented. The quarantine barriers around the Fenris 7 system are beginning to dissolve. The planet is healing itself. Fenris paused, his bioluminescent patterns flickering with what Marcus had learned to recognize as deep emotion. Perhaps some things once thought lost forever can find their way home. As Fenris departed in a ship of his own creation, something that seemed to be grown rather than built, Marcus reflected on how much the galaxy had changed in just a few days. He had started as a simple mechanic fixing a broken containment system. Now he was a witness to the transformation of civilization itself. The age of empires was ending. The age of individuals had begun. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, a guardian was finally returning to a world that had waited 4 centuries for its protector to come home.